Welcome back to the West, a narrative history. We're into part 3, the division of the West, and this is chapter 7, part 1, the Roman Empire. And we're going to talk about what's been happening to the Roman Empire as it is starting to break apart. Here's a little timeline for you, and we're going to be talking about medieval civilization. And I want you to know because we're going to be talking about Christianity, Islam, and a little bit about maybe Orthodox religion, that the history of religions and how they shaped events in Western civilization is different from religious theology. So even though we're going to be talking about what different religions believe, how they were started, different religious figures, just know this is how these religions shaped Western civilization. We are not specifically talking about what anyone should believe or trying to contradict what someone already believes. So this is not religious theology. This is religious. This is part of Western civilization history. So religion really unified some and divided others. The big new issue is the idea of monotheistic religions, believing in only one God. And Vibia Perpetua and Augustine are the first emperors take really firm stands on monotheism and allowing no middle ground as far as you worship what you want and I'm going to worship what I want. 3 different medieval civilizations emerge: Latin Christian Europe, Greek Christian Byzantium, and the Arab Islamic Empire. And because they're all monotheistic, they all believe they're right. And so there's conflict between each other and within themselves. And so we're going to think about what can we conclude about religion and its effects in our own world. So Christianity, we're going to talk about that first. It begins with Jesus of Nazareth, who lives in the Galilee region of northern Palestine during the reign of Tiberius. After his death in around 30 CE, some of his followers claimed that he was a Messiah, and they spread the good news that he's been resurrected after his death. By about the year 300, about 5%, maybe as little as 1% of the total population of the empire has converted to that new religion of Christianity. The earliest Christian texts emerge in the decades following Jesus' death, and they will continue to be written. The Gospels, the 4 written Gospels, are designed to spread the faith, and they reflect a growing divide. There's a big division between people who claim to be Christians and Jews, even though Christianity comes out of Judaism. So there's more and more of a separation between the two religions. There was no empire-wide persecution of Christians until the reign of Decius, but there were opportunities for people to be martyred. And a martyr is someone who dies for their faith, and this gives witness to their faith. They believe strongly enough to be killed for it. Christians are noted for their organization and their attempt to enforce discipline through a hierarchical system. They had bishops who were at the head, and then basically there's just an organizational system. So it's like a business or a government. It has its own system to keep things organized. Constantine creates a major change for Christians when he is the emperor because he embraces Christianity. We're not really sure why he did and how devoted he was to it in the beginning, but he endorses this religion and shows his favoritism to Christian officials as often as he can. He doesn't make it the official religion of the empire, but he does make it the preferred religion. While the church benefited from Constantine, there were many unresolved issues as far as what their basic beliefs were. There were some disagreements. And so there was these arguments about what was orthodox or the correct belief versus what was heresy or false teaching. So Constantine is going to bring them together. Arius is this gentleman who says that God the Father is not identical to Jesus the Son, and there are those who disagree with this, and it causes a big problem. So Constantine brings everyone together, all the bishops, in a place called Nicaea, to determine what true Christianity believes, and they create something called the Nicene Creed and establish correct belief. The Arians who believe what differently are sent into exile, but the emperor is now where he had tried to take himself out of being committed into establishing or being involved in religious belief ideology type things. Like he now is committed to being part of interpreting religious beliefs. And so what's the consequence of the government or the emperor being involved in determining religious affairs? An important theme in Christian belief says that the world, or the physical world that we live in here, we need to be detached from it before going to heaven. So Christians need to detach themselves before going to heaven. If authorities are aiding rather than persecuting Christians, are Christians in danger of being corrupted by the world? And just as Christians were becoming more attached to the world, it suddenly began to collapse around them. Germans, which were the barbarians, they began to flood into Western Roman Empire in the 4th century. The Germans are saying, we want what you guys have, so let's go into Rome. There was a long familiarity existed along the border zones, and the Germans were not barbarians in the sense we think of them. They were very familiar with Roman ways of life. They were very familiar with Romans. And some of them had even converted to Christianity. So they were very familiar with Rome. They were basically moving as migrants, and the Romans really couldn't resist the new immigration. There was this big ambush of Roman soldiers and an emperor at Adrianople, and so there's just this big conflict and wave of immigrants that the Roman Empire can't combat. One of these Germans, called Alaric the Visigoth, he actually makes it all the way to Rome and sacks it. And when you sack a city, it means you destroy the capital, or you destroy the city. Then there's this huge string of different German tribes that go into the different provinces and carve out territory of the old empire in the west. The final emperor in the west is Romulus Augustulus, and they get rid of him in 476 BC. So was this a transformation for the west? The Byzantine Empire of Constantinople. So while the empire in the west is collapsing to German invaders, the Eastern Empire, based in Constantinople, survives into 1453 CE. There is an attempt to retake the west, led by Justinian, and the Byzantine Empire reaches its zenith of power, creativity, and influence. So they're kind of over there saying, we're going to do our own thing while you guys do your thing. And they kind of stayed separate from all the stuff that was going on in the West. And that's the end of part 1. Next up, we're going to look at Islam and see what happens with the rise of Islam.